sometimes people think about a trust and they think that it's just something that super wealthy people need, but really all a trust is, when you boil it down, it's just a set of instructions. It's a set of instructions about how your assets and your family is going to be dealt with if you can't do it for yourself. And there's really two situations when that would come about. Of course, if you passed away, you can't deal with it. But the other time period would be a disability. So let's say you have a stroke, you get dementia, Alzheimer's, something happens, you're too sick and you can't make decisions anymore. And so a trust can also, give instructions for that. And really the first place we start, sometimes people will kind of think, well, do I need a trust? And we get that question sometimes, but really the issue is, we don't even really get to that point first, because the issue really is, what are your goals? What's your family situation? What are you trying to accomplish? Because really a trust is just a tool. There's a lot of different tools that we use. There's different types of trust. There's wills, there's powers of attorney, living wills, there's, Medicaid strategies, there's tax strategies. There's all these tools that we have, in our toolbox. And so, but before we even can figure out what tools we need, we have to talk about what are the goals that we're trying to accomplish, and then we can get the tools out. And many times a trust is a good tool to use. We can get a lot done with trusts. It's one of the best tools we have. But there's a lot of different types of trusts. Some trusts are intended to help avoid probate court and make things smooth after death. Some trusts are intended to, protect assets from an heir that maybe overspends. There's trusts that protect from, if your child gets divorced later on, that the money doesn't go to the divorcing daughter-in-law or son-in-law. There's trusts that help us qualify for government benefits like Medicaid or VA. There's trusts that we use to avoid estate taxes. There's all kinds of different types of trusts, and those are just tools. And so, sometimes I would compare it to, like if you're going to build a house, what would be important? Would you care what kind of tools they use to build the house? Probably not. It would probably, be, how many bathrooms does it have? Does it have a basement? Does it have a front porch? Like when my wife and I were looking for a house, we wanted a house with a front porch, and that there's a lot of houses that don't have front porches anymore. And so we found one that had a porch. But, so that's kind of when we start with, the foundation of planning really is, what are you trying to accomplish? What kind of house are we trying to build here in terms of planning? And then we get the tools, and that's really where it comes then back to the lawyer and the legal expertise to figure out what tools do we need to get, to build this, what we're trying to do. People don't even realize it, but they're already an expert in estate planning before we even get started. And I always tell people that in workshops, and sometimes people give me a funny look, but I tell them, you're already an expert in estate planning, because what I mean, they already have all the tools to do good planning, because really what they're experts in is they're experts in their own family. They know who gets along with who, they know who's a procrastinator, they know who spends too much money, they know which grandkids' marriage is rocky. And they also know their values and their goals, what's important to them, with their faith, with their, how they think money should be handled, what it took to build the assets that they have, and what the work that went into it, and how they, want to pass down that legacy to their kids and grandkids. And so that's really the expertise that somebody needs to do good planning, And then we add that to, the attorney that's experienced in doing this. We've worked with hundreds of families with planning, and so, we can bring that expertise with the legal tools, and combine that with the family expertise, and that's when we end up with a good plan that's going to accomplish the goals that the people want.